Hey, welcome to this clinic. It is all things early years, which is 0 to 8-year-olds. But if you do have older children, the information that I'm going to give you in here is going to be just as relevant for them as it is for your younger children. So if you are watching live, so to speak, could you let me know the ages of your children in the chat box? If you are watching the recording, obviously you don't have the opportunity to do that, but feel free to message me and let me know how everything's going for you and your family, and if there's anything that I can help you with. You can email me on hello@anisalewis.com or head to my website. So my background, for those of you who don't know me, is I'm a positive parenting coach, but my background is education and teaching. So I have been in education for, well, this would have been my 25th year if I was still in the classroom. But about 8 years ago, I stepped out of the classroom to set up my own business. I moved my family from Surrey up to Yorkshire, where my next step in teaching would have been headship because I was a deputy head at the time. But I did some soul searching and I decided that I wanted to help parents. I wanted to make a real difference to parents who just were experiencing some bumps in the road, for children who needed a little bit of extra help. That's what I wanted to do. So I'm absolutely and completely passionate about helping you to raise happy and confident children no matter what is going on for you right now. So we've got quite a mix of ages on here: 8, 3.5, 4, 7 and 3, 2 and 7, 10 and 6. Fab. Okay. So when I was a teacher, my specialty was early years. So this is an area, although now with the work I do, I tend to work with older children and tweens and teens. 0 to 8-year-olds are my area of love. You give me a 3-year-old any day. Love it. So I'm so pleased to be able to offer you this clinic. For those of you who've listened in before, you will know that I like to give lots and lots of ideas and information for your toolkit as a parent, because I believe that you've always got to be ready for the next thing that might come up for you in your parenting. Because what used to be the cycle for my daughter, not so much now because she's 15 turning 16. In fact, she's just sat her first GCSE exam today, so I'm graying slightly and quickly. But her cycle used to be about every 6 weeks. So a technique or a tool that I'd use and got established and was feeling really quite smug in myself that I was winning this mothering malarkey. And then 6 weeks later, she'd be like, yeah, that's not working for me anymore. And I would have to have another tool to pull off my tool shelf or out of my toolkit in order to help her. So that is what I want for you. So by the end of this talk, you might have some ideas, you might have lots of things written down, but I'm going to ask you to comment on one thing that's really resonated for you today, one thing that has come up for you. And obviously, if you've got any questions, I will do my best to answer them as we go along. So do use the chat box. I generally tend not to mention people's names so that you have confidentiality. And if you do wish to just message me, you can message me privately and it will come up. And again, I won't mention your name. Obviously, if you're listening to the replay and you want to reach out, just head to my website and send me a message. I'm here. I like to hear from people. I'm a sociable creature. Okay, so let's have a think about early years. And again, we're really sort of slotting into early years from sort of school age, preschool up, although I could do a baby's talk, but that's not what today is about. And so if we think about that period from sort of like 3 years old up until 8 or 9, it's really a period of rapid development and milestones. What I will also say is that everybody's children is different. Everybody's going to experience things at different rate. And just because some scientist somewhere has said that your child should hit a milestone at this point, if they're not, then obviously there's a reason for that, or they're just taking their time. It's not always sinister. So be your child's biggest advocate and just be aware that things happen at different rates. But if you think about that period of a child's development, it's rapid. You know, they go from not being able to feed themselves, not being able to walk, not being able to toilet themselves and all that kind of stuff, to starting school, to making friends, to becoming that personality that they are, to really fighting for independence, where you get all the tantrums and the overwhelm and that kind of stuff. And it's an interesting time in parenting. It's certainly tiring, but I think it's also an incredibly rewarding time of parenting. So if you feel that it's a rewarding time and you can see some of the positives, let me know with an emoji or something in the chat box. If it's just too overwhelming for you, then that's okay. You can either let me know with an emoji Or you can just sit there and go, actually, right now, things are not okay for me. And that's okay. It's not a problem at all. But what I would encourage you to do, we as a race, as a human beings, as a society, we are trained innately from our inner core to look for the negatives in what's going on because we want to get better, because we want to keep ourselves safe. So I really do encourage you to each day just try and think of a parenting win. Just try and remind yourself of why you are a parent or what actually went well today. And if nothing went well today, then just say, you know what, running water, a flushing toilet, and I fed my child. That is okay as well. You know, we don't all have to be flying high on parenting every single day of our lives. It's okay to be you. Okay, something I really wanted to touch on here when we look at early years, and quite often it's forgotten, and I think it's really sort of like the main role, the main job of our children, and that is play. So how often do you think about play with your children? Again, a 3-year-old is probably more inclined to play than maybe an 8 or 9-year-old, but I found a really scary statistic the other day. I'm just trying to remember the age of the children. And I want to say it was like 5-year-olds or maybe it was 8-year-olds. In fact, there's a client on this call. If you can remember, because I think I gave you this fact, if you can correct me if I'm wrong, anyway, let me know. But let's say it's 8-year-olds, but say like a third of 8-year-olds have a mobile phone. I'm like, that for me is really a humbling statistic, and one that I sort of think, well, okay, what's the purpose of them having it? Where is their play? Are they then glued to the screen? And I think it's just something that's really worth thinking about with you and your children. How can you encourage more play? So often when we think of what to do on the weekend, we think about taking them to the park or going on an outing or going to the shops or whatever it might be. But how often do you think about putting play into your week, into your day, into your hours? And you can set up some really simple ideas around play. There's some lovely people to follow, like the Imagination Tree. She's a good one to follow. And there's another one, 5-Minute Mum, I think. Hopefully I've got that right. And they put out some really lovely play ideas, which are just stuff that you've got around your house that you could leave, and just your children engaged in them as a result of them just being moved to a slightly different place on your house. So all I would like to encourage you to do is don't forget about play. When you are encouraging your child to learn their alphabet, to do their colors, to learn to read, to get to football practice and all the rest of it, actually, those things will come. I absolutely promise you, as an early years teacher, those things will come. Don't take away play as a result of them wanting to do all the activities under the sun. Give yourself some downtime and actually just use it as a connection moment with your kids. So tell me in the chat box a why if you're going to try and include some purposeful play this weekend, or a line or something if it's you just don't have time for it. And I absolutely get that. We are busy, but just think about it. I'm planting a seed that might help you. Okay. Early years, as I said, there is lots of things going on in early years. Your children are trying to be more independent. Your children are trying to find their own place in the world. And so that can come with tantrums, emotional deregulation, tiredness, and all those kind of things. And I really want you to encourage you to use praise more with your children. And you're like, well, of course I praise my child. And I want to encourage you to think about how you praise your child. Are you praising an end product? Like, wow, that tower is really tall. Great, you got 10 out of 10 in a spelling test. Or are you praising the process that got them to that end result? Because actually, that's what I want. That's what they need to know, that actually they're praised for their perseverance, their courage, their bravery, their kindness, their persistence. All those kind of words are actually the journey that got them to the end result, whatever that end result might be. So please, please, please use praise. Use it mindfully, use it purposefully. Don't I was going to say, you can use praise when things aren't going right. And it's a really funny place to use praise. But when your child is just about to have a tantrum, or just about to throw a toy across the room, or just about to do something, you can go, wow, I think you've just paused to think about what you were going to do. Good job. That's amazing. Again, it's praise. And suddenly your child's like, oh, I've been praised for something where I was about to be, let's put it in brackets, a little bit naughty or a little bit overwhelmed, and actually I'm being praised for it. Oh, okay. And it might be just enough to change the behavior or change their outlook on what's going on. I say praise is really such an underutilized tool. And if it has the power in a classroom of 30 to get children to sit quietly and sensibly on a carpet by just starting to praise the children you can see doing the right thing, it can certainly work in a household where there's one child, 4 children, 3 children. It doesn't matter. Someone's just mentioned here in the chat box about for SATs revision, or if you've got those older children sitting entrance exams, or my child sitting her GCSEs, praise absolutely can be used. Use it with your partner, use it with your friends, acknowledge what goodness you see around you, and I promise you it will be delivered back to you tenfold. I think when it comes to early years, we're always wanting them to reach that next milestone. We're wanting them to, to be able to put their shoes on, to be able to whatever. And I think we tend to use potentially rewards and incentives in more a bribery and corruption type fashion. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm all for a sticker. I'm all for dangling a carrot if a carrot is needed. However, I want to encourage you with this, with the early years, especially, and and older children, to look at it in a different way. Could you create some sort of incentive that is actually for the whole family? So you're trying to make kindness a priority, or helpfulness, or something. I don't know, it's whatever's going on for you and your family. And could you actually try and catch yourself or catch your children doing that? And then you have a jar in the kitchen and you're collecting pom-poms, or you're collecting pieces of pasta for every time someone's caught doing that right behavior or doing the action that you're required. And then at the end of that, the family gets a reward. So actually what happens here is you're not penalizing the child who is not quite as good at something as the other child. Everybody's trying to catch everybody. And because it's pom-poms or pieces of pasta or marbles or Lego pieces, nobody really knows how many each person has put in. But actually the reward for getting 20 Lego pieces in the jar is that we're going to go and get an ice cream on the weekend down at the park, and we're going to go and feed the ducks, or we're going to snuggle on the sofa and have movie afternoon, and so can choose it rather than it being mum and dad's choice and something like that. So that's really, it's such a nice way to increase the incentive, but make it not quite so focused on the child. Because the things with the rewards charts, especially when they're younger, is they don't have the developmental capacity to realize that they got a sticker one day for something, and then why didn't they get the same sticker the next day when they've done that, or they've done something quite similar, but it hasn't been quite rewarded in the same way as it was the day before. And so this sort of takes a little bit of pressure off you as a parent. Another parent has just commented that they use the jam jar pom-pom thing for chores. If you do a chore, you're not going to get pocket money for it, but actually at the end of us doing it, you'll get a reward, as we all get a nice treat and a celebration for that. And so I'd like to encourage you to look at rewards and incentives with the early years in slightly different way. I think, especially in the early years, and I think it morphs and changes as our children become sort of 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, and then into their teens, is the idea of boundaries. Your boundaries can be as small as a lamppost, or skinny as a lamppost, or as wide as a football field. But do your children know what your boundaries and your limits are in your parenting, or do the goalposts or the boundaries keep moving? And I think this is where the word in parenting comes down to consistency. What you put in place to support your children has to be simple, it has to be easy, and it has to allow you to be consistent so that you can remember what you've decided to do in that particular situation when everything's hitting off and you need to deal with it. So do you have boundaries? I guess that's the first question. And I'm not saying about boundaries that are so controlling that your child is being helicoptered and they're not able to do anything for themselves. Boundaries could be, your child is very aware that they'll get praise and encouragement and reward for X, and that if they push it too far the other way, then there's going to be some sort of consequence, whether that's logical, natural, or something you've agreed in advance with your child. So again, you're not plucking things out of the air to get them to conform, because actually how I view behavior, and especially in the early years, is all behavior is communication. So if your child is tantruming all the time, if your child is talking back, if your child is me do it all the time, why are they doing that? Is that because you're helicoptering them? Is that because you're trying to do something? Where is that coming from? We need to try and behavior is always the tip of the iceberg. What is going on underneath the surface? And in early years, it might be a little bit trickier to try and find out what that is, but you will get there, I promise, if you are curious. And I really do encourage you to be curious rather than judgmental, to really notice, okay, my child is having an absolute hissy fit about the blue cup rather than the green cup. But why is that? Is that because they're hungry? Is that because they're tired? Is that because they're lonely? Is that because they're angry? So a really lovely acronym to sort of put in your head before you are responding to your child is the word HALT. So it stands for hunger, anger, lonely, tired. And it might be worth just running through that little checklist in your head before you respond to your child in what they're throwing at you. Because my memory of being an early years teacher, my memory of being a parent of an early years child, is it was a little bit emotive, a little bit spontaneous, and a little bit cuddly and warm and all the rest of it. But it really was, whoa, where did that come from? So I think that's something for us to think about. I think quite often when our children are showing us these big emotions, they just want us to understand what's going on. And our role as parents of younger children is to try and help educate them on emotions, because emotions are really quite abstract concepts for children. They are very difficult to understand. What actually is respect? What is happiness? What is excitement? What is anger? So the more we talk about it and acknowledge it, the more they're putting the pieces together, or the puzzle together in their head of that's what it means. So a really lovely way of acknowledging this is I see, I hear, I understand. And after those, you just state facts. You're not giving opinions. You're not shouting. You're not trying to rescue your child. You're just trying to acknowledge what's going on for them. So for example, I can see you're really angry. I understand that your brother taking that toy has made you really cross. All you've done is state facts, and your child can either come back and tell you that they're not angry and they're not cross and it was nothing to do with their brother and the toy, and therefore it starts a dialogue and a communication, or they just go, oh, yeah, that's what it was. I've been understood. I've been heard. I've been listened to. And likewise, when a child tells you that they're, I don't know, for example, I'm feeling scared, and you say to them, oh, there's nothing to be scared about. What you're really saying to them is that their feelings and their emotions aren't important, that they don't really matter. So again, I would really encourage you to just say, golly, what's made you scared? Or, oh, I can see you're scared, but will you be scared forever? Or is it just a moment? So we can reframe our words and our communications with our children, which really helps to build their emotional resilience, really helps to build their emotional intelligence. And I think that is a big takeaway from the early years of life, is if we can build that resilience and build those emotional intelligence early on, then we're going to stand them in such good stead for what comes within the teenage years. Okay, when you're thinking about limit setting with your children, they've done something and a consequence has come up. And I mentioned it a few moments ago about like natural consequences and logical consequences. So if your child is hitting off about some food and they've thrown it on the floor, then the logical consequence is not we're starving our children, but that they have to get up, they have to pick it up, they have to help you tidy it up. And then hopefully by that you've regulated them enough that they can talk about why they threw the food on the floor and what is it about it that you want. That is the consequence. They don't need to be punished further for that. It might be that something has happened at school if your child is of school age and they bring it home, and then you put on another consequence on top of that. It's not natural and it's not logical, because the school will have dealt with whatever it is. You can acknowledge that it's disappointing, or how are we going to try and do better, but actually let the natural and logical consequences work for you rather than against you. I think sometimes we have to pick our battles, and especially in the early years where everything is a new experience, and we could hold our children to a really high state and hold them to account to be mini adults, and they're not. They are not mini adults. They are children developing and working on themselves, and mindset wise and mind development and physical development, they're not where an adult is. And so if you're holding your child to a higher account than they are physically able to do, then we need to readjust that. So for example, when I was a preschool nursery teacher, one of our early learning goals was to teach a child to follow one instruction, just one. Yet I was there hearing parents going to their children, put your shoes on, get your bag, where's your hat, where's this, oh, your snack box, go and pick this up. And by that point, your child developmentally cannot take on that information. But by saying to them, go and get your shoes, they can take that on, because that's one instruction. Once they've mastered that, then we build up to 2, and then we build up to 3. But don't hold your children to higher accounts than they are actually developmentally able to do. So what got me to that point from my notes, which you won't have seen my notes, but what got me there was thinking about how we then treat our children when they've had an emotional outburst or they've had a naughty moment. Now, I don't actually believe that there is any naughtiness in the world, and we label things actually incorrectly. What they're doing is they're experimenting, they're testing boundaries, they're blah, blah, blah. They're actually not being naughty, they're being a child, but it's how we then are responding and being triggered by what's being happening. And so what I was thinking there was around what your child needs from you. And actually probably what your child needs is an I see, I hear, I understand, and a hug. When they're back to being regulated again, then you can talk about what's happened, and then you can talk about how we can help our children to do something differently next time and look at it from another perspective. But when they're in that emotional state, they actually need what I would fondly refer to as a time in rather than a time out. They need you. They need connection. Okay, I'm absolutely flying towards the finish line here. There are a couple of books that I wanted to waft under your noses, which I thought might be good for you, or interesting if that is your way of learning, and I will put them in the email that I send out with the recording. So there's How to Talk So Little Kids Will Listen. This is a great series which runs through teenagers, everything, but this one is specifically for, as it says, 2 to 7-year-olds. Another really lovely book is Calmer, Easier, Happier Parenting. That one, well, I think I've scribbled quite a lot of notes in that one. And then the last one I wanted to show you is one called The Incredible Years. So it's a troubleshooting guide for parents of 2 to 8-year-olds. Really interesting reads, very easy reads. All of those are very easy reads, and I'm sure you can get them as audio books as well. So just before I ask you what your takeaway was from today, I want you to think about you. The early years is tiring. The early years is stressful. The early years is also an incredible, rewarding time in your parenting journey. But I want to encourage you that you can't pour from an empty cup. And so if your cup is empty, if you're lacking sleep, if you're being triggered because your own emotions are coming out, you need to help yourself so that you can then help your children and be in a better place. Because without us being the best versions of ourselves, and I guess we're all human, so it's not a guilt trip at all, that's not my style, but without you being in the place that you can function and deal with tantrums, deal with independence, deal with whatever it is that's being thrown at you in this early years, it's really difficult to parent your children in the way you want to parent them. And so I just want you to reflect on that. What do you need that would make you feel more you? What do you need to prioritize so that actually you can be the parent that you really would like to be? So yes, I will absolutely send over, someone's asked whether I can send over the book names in the email. Yep, I absolutely will send an email with the book names in there for you and links so that you can go and purchase them should you want. I've absolutely no obligation from my side to do that. So while I just take a quick sip of my water, could I get you to put into the chat box, what is your takeaway from today? What is something that's resonated about these precious early years that you are living through at the moment with your children? I'd really love to hear that. Next month is the last, oh golly, we get flying to the end of this academic year very, very quickly. So next month I have my final live clinic of this academic year, which is all about emotions. So please feel free to hook into that. I'll send that out in the email when that comes out later. And then I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, if my diary allows, I'm going to create a summertime clinic, which I will email out to anybody that wants it to help you get through the summer. So I'm working on some exciting projects at the moment with some summer guides to help you get through the summer in a peaceful and calm manner with your sanity in place. I've got coaching going on. I've got new training going on. So if I can help you in any way, I do offer a free 20-minute consultation with anyone who wants to chat through anything. But likewise, just ping me an email. Tell me what's going on for you, because I would love to hear from you. So let me see. What are our takeaways from today? They are not mini adults. Emotional outbursts, respond with time in and halt. Yep. Someone's saying, thank you, good food for thought. The daughter is slightly older, but still very relevant. Absolutely. And that's why I made that point at the beginning, because everything that I'm saying, I still use quite a lot of the techniques with my 15 turning 16-year-old. You know, these are good, solid foundations for you to build things on. Yes, so in answer to that question, I do a tweens and teens clinic, but I'm yet to decide what I'm doing moving forward. So that individual, if you message me, I will send you the recording of the tweens and teens one. Not a problem at all. Okay, the jam jar with the pom-poms, or the rewards for the family, one instruction at a time. Product versus process, building play ideas into every day, remembering there are not many adults. I see, I hear, I understand. Gosh, so many takeaways. This is awesome. I do appreciate I'm also running over time. So if you need to go, the recording is being sent out. Limiting information I give in one go, trying to praise. If I can see a meltdown coming on, family praise jar, one thing at a time. Handling emotions, excellent. Asking questions, giving one instruction. Gosh, so many takeaways. Reading one, I'm a bit confused. If anyone is interested in the jam jar, have promised. Oh, okay, so the end result of it is going to the toy store. Nice. Yeah, if anybody would like the tweens and teen ones, can I get you to ping me an email? I'm sorry, because once I'm going from this, I'm going to another client, and then I'm giving another talk, and then I've got another couple of clients after that. So if I can get you just to email me on either a response to the reminder you got, I will get that, or email me on hello@anisalewis.com and just say that you want the teen recording. I am more than happy to send that out, but please message me, because yeah, my diary is bonkers at the moment, and so I don't want to forget. So yeah, thank you so much for joining me today. I loved reading your takeaways. Time is precious, and I know that giving up some time in your day to see me and hear me talk is I don't take it for granted. I'm very, very grateful. So thank you so much. Enjoy what is left of the day. Hopefully the sun will remain shining for you. And if you're catching this on replay, please do reach out if I can help you with anything directly.